Okay, so here we are. I think we're getting close to closing out this study in the book of Jude, trying to determine whether or not it was written after 70 AD. I hope it's been pretty convincing to you so far. This is episode 17, and we're going to look at the epistle of what is referred to commonly as Second John and how it relates to the book of Jude. So what is the significance of Second John? Second John may be providing us with more evidence that Jude, the half-brother of Jesus, was not a believer prior to the second coming of Christ. There's a purpose for me referring to this epistle in that way, Second John. You see I've got it in quotes there. Today's episode is going to basically be a closure to our study on the dating of the Epistle of Jude, but there's also another purpose. It's going to be a segue into our next study, which is going to be on authorship of the fourth gospel, which is commonly called the Gospel of John, and first, second, third John. But I think there's reason to have some doubts about the naming of the author of those. So that, again, that'll be our next study. So today's episode, for the most part, a closure in our study on the dating of the Epistle of Jude. However, other episodes will be added to the playlist if any further discussion or revelation comes up or any objections, because I want to make sure we always have the playlist open to just to discuss these things, not to just simply close it out. We want to leave no stone unturned in this investigation. Also, as I mentioned, this is going to be a segue into our next study, and that is on the authorship of the fourth gospel and the other associated works. And there's also, I'm thinking there might be a possibility I might just add a reading of Second John just to the playlist for this Jude study, since we're going to look at it pretty deep here, but we'll see. So again, just stay tuned for that study on the authorship of the Gospel of John, but I appreciate you being here on this one. So let's get back to it, our study in Jude. Here we have a small portion of Second John. We're going to read the first part, the introduction. It says, "The elder to the elect lady and her children whom I love in truth, and not only I, but also all those who have known the truth, because of the truth which abides in us and will be with us forever. I rejoice greatly that I have found some of your children walking in truth, as we received commandment from the Father." And the same epistle here, we're going to go to the closing. It says John's farewell greeting. I should have erased that. Again, I have doubts about that, but I didn't catch that. So it is verse 12 and 13, closing letter. "Having many things to write to you, I do not wish to do so with paper and ink, but I hope to come to you and speak to face to face, that our joy may be full. The children of your elect sister greet you. Amen." So let's consider in the 19th chapter of the fourth gospel, we have a commentary here. It says, "When Jesus," this is from the cross, "he saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing by, and he said to his mother, 'Woman, behold your son.' Then he said to the disciple, 'Behold your mother.' And from that hour, that disciple took her to his own home." That's the 19th chapter of the fourth gospel. So Jesus is putting into his mother's care, he's putting his mother's care into the hand of the disciple whom he loved. And the disciple whom he loved is the person who takes credit for the authorship of the fourth gospel. The author of the fourth gospel never refers to himself as John. So again, we're using Second John here. So this is the same person. It's quite possible, and this is kind of the point for putting Second John here. It's quite possible that Second John is a letter from the disciple whom Jesus loved to Mary, the mother of Jesus. And if this is true, there could be a veiled reference to Jude in verse 4. If we take a look at verse 4 again, he says, "I rejoice greatly that I have found some of your children walking in truth." Now we know that James, the half-brother of Jesus, became a believer sometime around the resurrection of Jesus, or sometime shortly thereafter. As for the other brothers, we have no idea on the timing of at what point they became believers. This leaves the door open for Jude to have come to faith in Jesus after the events of 70 AD, as only some of his brothers were walking in truth at the time of the writing of Second John. And then let's jump to the that closing portion of that letter that we read earlier. He says, "The children of your elect sister greet you. Amen." So in the fourth gospel, we're also told that Mary's sister was at the cross. So this could be the reference to your elect sister. He says, "Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother and his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Clopas and Mary Magdalene." So this adds to the evidence that the letter was likely written to Mary, which means that it could be confirming that Jude was not yet a believer in Jesus. And again, I know this is not the strongest evidence we have in the study. It's just simply an intriguing thought. But again, as I've said before, you look at all the other evidence, it just, to me, it's overwhelming. I don't know where you stand with that yet. If you haven't, you're not convinced, maybe to take another run through the playlist, take a look at them again. Again, an intriguing thought, but the intrigue grows again when we look at all the other evidence. And as we said before, this episode and the reference to 2 John we're using as the segue into the next study, and that'll be titled something like the authorship of the fourth gospel and the associated text for 2nd and 3rd John. So the introductory video to that series is going to be released very shortly. I'll give more details how we're going to go through it, the Methodist study. And I just thank you for joining in this Epistle of Jude. And again, you might see a quick reading in the playlist for this Jude study that just includes 2nd John there. So I hope to see you on the next study. And until next time, contend earnestly for the faith which was once for all delivered to the saints, and God bless.